Well, hello, my dear friends, and welcome back to the channel. Justyn Smith here with a Heart for Revival Ministries, a heartforrevival.com. We would be so encouraged if you take some time to visit our website and find out how you can pray with us and labor with us for the glory of God. Welcome back to the Hay Barn here in Alaska. Welcome back to our Through the Bible series. Today we are in 1 Kings chapter 7 with this topic and title, Helping Hands. So 1 Kings 7:14, let me read it, and then we'll give a few points. Notice verse 14, he was a widow's son of the tribe of Naphtali, and his father was a man of Tyre, a worker in brass, and he was filled with wisdom and understanding and cunning to work all works in brass. And he came to King Solomon and wrought all his work. You know, as we consider that particular verse, it's one out of many within this chapter, obviously, but it deals with helping hands. It deals with this solitary man, this individual that was chosen to work in the temple of the Lord with the brass that was to be part of the Lord's work there in the temple. And we are so thankful to be able to introduce a few thoughts about this man that really challenge us today. So notice point number one, his past losses didn't hinder him, okay? His past losses didn't hinder him. I mean, notice right from the very first part of the verse, verse 14, he was a widow's son. He was a widow's son. Now, as you consider that specific title, it would then lead you to understand at some point this man lost his father. Maybe it was before he was born. Maybe it wasn't. I mean, it is noted in verse 14 that his father was a man of Tyre, a worker in brass. And that's exactly what this man that we are dealing with, which is in verse 13, his name is Hiram, out of Tyre. Hiram is going to become exactly what his father was. I don't know if this man was, lost his father when he was a child or when he was a teenager. Maybe he had some time to learn after his father. Maybe another brass worker took him under his wing and taught him. We don't exactly know. It's just very interesting that it's worded like this. This is how Hiram was known. He was the widow's son. He didn't have his daddy around anymore. But yet, taking after the trade of his father was a huge blessing, not just for the widow, we would have to believe, but also for the work of the Lord. Praise the Lord for Hiram, the son who was willing to arise from whatever criticisms could come because you're the widow's son, or from whatever play situations he could not enjoy because he's a widow's son. He's got to provide for the family. This man knew how to rise up from the losses of this life, move on, and put his hands to the plow and labor for the glory of the Lord. His past losses didn't hinder him. And what I consider about this particular man is not just how he could have thrown in the towel, or he could have not been faithful to do what his dad did. He could not have become great. But I see a second thing, and I'm gonna say it like this. Number two, birds of a feather flock together. And what I mean by that is there is a likeness between Solomon and Hiram. Notice verse 14. He was a widow's son of the tribe of Naphtali, and his father was a man of Tyre, a worker in brass, and he was filled with wisdom and understanding and cunning to work all works in brass. There it is. Okay, that statement right there, that this Hiram, he was full of wisdom. He was full of understanding. He was cunning to work all works in brass. He was skilled in his work. There's the birds of a feather flock together because Solomon, the one who is leading this project, the king of Israel, he's full of wisdom. He's full of understanding. He appreciates others who are full of wisdom and understanding, especially when it comes down to their craft. And this is where I want to challenge you as we talk about helping hands. the more that you hone your craft, the more that you rise above the losses that you face in this life, the more you will be able and enabled to help somebody else in their time of need. Have you ever understood that God has brought certain people through hard times so that they can be a help to somebody in their hard time? Maybe you can look back on your life and recognize how God brought you through a hard time so that you can be a blessing to somebody else in their hard time. Praise the Lord for that. Then I want you to notice a third thought. He had stickability and continued to the end. He had stickability and continued to the end. He was a widow's son of the tribe of Naphtali, and his father was a man of Tyre, a worker in brass. And he was filled with wisdom and understanding and cunning to work all works in brass. And he came to King Solomon and wrought all his work. He wrought all his work. He did it there, and he completed what God would have him to do, what Solomon requested of him as the plans were given unto him. He wrought all his work. Aren't you thankful that when it comes down to somebody who is a helper, somebody who lends a hand, that they are able to stick it out, that they're able to be faithful, and that they're able to continue unto the end? What a blessing that is. It's a blessing to a pastor. It's a blessing to a youth pastor. It's a blessing to their wives. It's a blessing to the church. When somebody has stickability, when somebody has faithfulness, praise the Lord. When it comes down to the workforce, praise the Lord for employees who are willing to stick it out. And I know that it does matter how employees are taken care of. But at the same time, there is the idea of the master-servant relationship that needs to be understood. If we're not in that place of leadership, we need to have the kind of stickability, the kind of loyalty that says, look, I am here as a laborer. I am here to work, and I'm not scared. I am not scared of that word work. You need to be somebody like that, because there is a culture all around us that is so afraid of that word work. They don't want to do it, okay? But it takes work to live. Work just has many different looks for many different people, and to whom much is given, much shall be required. And when you get to that leadership position, it's not all sunshine and roses. There's decisions that you now have to make. And how many people have been the people who said, I want more money, I want to be in the place of leadership, and then they get there and they're like, take me back. I want to go back down to just being a peon in the company. I just want to be an employee because I don't like making all these decisions. But praise the Lord for those that God calls to positions of leadership that are higher, so that they can lead in the wisdom of the Lord, the congregations, the people, their employees, whatever cause or case it is in this life. And then to have people underneath you that are willing to help and willing to jump in. What can I do? How can I do it? I am here. Praise the Lord for helping hands. And we read the verse again. He, Hiram, as it says in verse 13, he was a widow's son of the tribe of Naphtali, and his father was a man of Tyre, a worker in brass, and he was filled with all wisdom and understanding and cunning to work all works in brass. And he came to King Solomon and wrought all his work. I'm thankful for the testimony of Hiram. I'm thankful for how he helped Solomon, and what a blessing that must have been to Solomon, as Solomon was simply trying to do what God wanted him to do. Take a moment and praise the Lord for those who help you. Maybe it's somebody in your church, your family, your workplace, maybe it's your spouse. Praise the Lord for the helping hands that are around you, and praise the Lord that you get to be somebody else's helping hands. God bless you, my dear friend. Thank you for click and play, and we look forward to you joining up with us on another day.